Do you want to take control of your health? Hear the truth about dieting and weight loss? Learn the best strategies for maintaining a healthy lifestyle? This is the Yossi Muller Show.
And welcome to the show. I'm Yossi Muller.
And I'm Duddy Muller.
Duddy is a chef with a background in nutrition.
Yossi is a nutritionist with, surprisingly, a background in nutrition.
Every show we do, we take another myth and debunk it.
Crush it.
Today's topic is the BMI chart. You may be familiar with a certain chart that you could see in doctors' offices and sometimes in dietitians' offices.
What is this chart, Yossi?
It is trying to tell you what is an appropriate weight for you.
How does it do that?
If you look at the chart, you can locate where your height is listed on the chart, and then you can follow it to see what an appropriate weight would be for you according to this chart. Some people think that this BMI chart is reliable.
And it's not.
No. So there are uses for this chart, but it's not a reliable indicator for any individual to know what is an appropriate weight for them.
Why does this matter?
There are a bunch of problems with thinking that the BMI chart is reliable. For starters, people may attempt to lose an unrealistic amount of weight.
And they will fail.
Yes, because for many people, the number that is recommended for them on the chart is a much lower number than is appropriate for them and is unrealistic for them to reach. And because they're relying on the chart, they will be discouraged. Either they will try to lose this amount of weight, even though it's unrealistic.
And they will fail.
Right.
Or they'll be discouraged when they see how much they have to lose.
Then they won't even try losing weight in the first place.
Right.
Another myth surrounding the BMI chart is that people think that the BMI chart tells you a lot of information. They think that it is a very sophisticated system that tells you a lot of information about yourself. So the BMI does not tell you what percentage fat you have on your body. Many people think it does. BMI does not take into account your gender or age. It simply takes into account your height and then provides you with a number that may be appropriate for someone of your height. It may apply to you and it may not. But that's all it's taking into account. It's not taking into account your gender, your age. It doesn't tell you what percentage fat you have in your body.
BMI might sound very sophisticated, but literally, the meaning of the words are body mass means size of body, index means list of. This is literally just a list of body sizes.
And it's not reliable as a method for an individual to know what is an appropriate body weight.
So why do people believe the BMI chart is reliable? Where did this idea come from?
That's because doctors and other healthcare professionals use it.
So then why are people wrong for believing that the BMI chart is reliable?
Well, let's give some background. The BMI chart was invented in the 1800s by a mathematician, not even a scientist or a doctor.
And it hasn't been updated since then?
It hasn't been updated because there really is no reliable way to have a chart based on height and weight. Height and weight is not enough information to tell you whether your weight is appropriate or not. So it hasn't been updated since the 1850s. Duddy, give us more information that we really need to consider if we were telling an individual what an appropriate weight would be for them.
Right. Okay. There are many factors that BMI does not take into account. It only takes into account weight relative to height. What it doesn't take into account is, for example, age. A 23-year-old and a 84-year-old. One main difference between older people and younger people is bone density. Older people, their bones will be much less dense and therefore weigh less.
Oh, so according to the BMI chart, a younger person with dense bones may seem to be more overweight than an older person with less dense bones.
BMI also doesn't take gender into account. Men and women have different physiological makeups, and no sensible person would use the same exact criteria to measure them both. BMI doesn't take into account the width of the person. For example, the average 18-year-old male has a shoulder width of approximately 15 inches. If someone were to have a shoulder width of 13 or 17 inches, very common, you'd be talking an over 13% difference in size of the shoulder width. The weight of these people would therefore need to be adjusted. Clear, simple, obvious, and ignored. And besides for weight loss, BMI is not accurate as far as general health either. BMI doesn't look at localized body fat. Simply speaking, excess fat in the waist area is far more potentially harmful because abdominal fat creates far more health risks than most other fat.
What some people call a pot belly or a beer gut. That type of fat is much worse for health.
Right. The abdomen is where most of your vital organs are, and the fat can constrict on those organs and cause a whole host of health issues.
So the waist area is the problem fat.
Right. You could also have fat within organs, the most dangerous of which is the liver. If you have a fatty liver, you're much more at risk for many diseases.
The BMI chart is certainly not telling you if the fat is in your liver or outside of your liver.
It's literally just saying weight. It doesn't even tell you if you have fat at all because it doesn't differentiate between muscle and fat. Muscle weighs more than fat and is far more healthy for the body than fat. The more muscle one has, and therefore the healthier that person is, the higher their BMI will be.
So you're telling me that there are people, maybe athletes or bodybuilders.
Yes, I actually have a great example of this. The famous bodybuilder Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he was named Mr. Universe, he was just over 6 feet tall. He weighed 235 pounds. That is a BMI of 31.4.
Wow.
Arguably one of the healthiest people on the planet was listed according to BMI as obese. Remember that there are almost no people on the planet that need to lose weight. Many of us need to lose fat, but no one needs to lose weight. BMI doesn't take fat into account, and that's really what you're trying to lose.
If someone wants to get a better BMI, they could go on a diet where they could eat unlimited amounts of food.
Just don't do any exercise. Sit on the couch the whole time. You'll lose your muscles. There we go. Losing muscles is a great way to keep your BMI in a manageable and healthy range. So we see that the BMI chart is not reliable. Why is the BMI chart in use? Why was it even invented?
So, I'm glad you asked. It's not for the individual, but it's for the population.
Ah, okay.
So the BMI, by knowing what a person's height is, they could come up with an average appropriate weight for someone's height without knowing what gender they are, without knowing where the fat is located on the body, without knowing their age, without knowing any of these factors. They could just do an estimate based on the average person, and they can tell you how a population is doing in terms of their weight.
And therefore maybe help them know what to focus on when dealing with that population.
There's another use of the BMI chart for the individual. Now, the doctor is not using the BMI chart the way we typically use it.
Well, hopefully he's not.
The doctor is going to look at the BMI chart where it tells the doctor how the patient's weight is compared to his or her height. The doctor could start with that information and then add gender and all these other factors. It just gives the doctor a bit of a head start. Instead of having to start with the weight, then the height, then the gender, then the percentage of fat, he or she could just start with the BMI number, which makes things a little quicker. It's not the final verdict.
It also is incredibly simple and so many people can use it, which is why it's so popular. But
Right.
it's not a tool to define where your body is health-wise.
Especially because not only is it not accurate, it tends to err on the side of making people feel bad about their weight.
It tends to say that you need to lose more weight than you really need to.
Yes.
Why is that? Why is it so strict on us?
So the chart doesn't know you personally, and it needs to protect you, and it needs to protect itself.
Why does it need to protect itself?
Well, the liability, whoever's responsible for creating the chart or providing the information from the chart to you, needs to protect themselves from any liability from you making a decision based on the chart information. This chart does not know you personally. So the chart doesn't know all this information about you, your gender, your age, your health conditions, especially your health conditions.
Your muscle mass, your body size, your...
Yes, all these factors. And it tends to err on the side of telling you you're more overweight than you are, because in case you have a health condition, if you have high cholesterol, blood sugar, blood pressure, and you would benefit from being even thinner than you would otherwise need to be, meaning someone without these conditions would not need to be so thin.
There are more of these kind of conditions than the other kind of condition where it's actually better to hold on to some weight.
Right. They would rather err on the side of making you feel bad.
And make you lose more weight.
There are some conditions that you need to hold on to extra fat. Fat protects the body from shock. Fat helps the body absorb certain vitamins, particularly vitamin D. Fat protects your internal organs from changes in weather. So someone who's more susceptible to any of these issues may be better off holding on to a little extra fat. But it's a lot more common that someone will have an issue, such as cholesterol, blood sugar, or blood pressure, that they would benefit from
Being thinner.
being extra thin. So therefore the chart, because it doesn't know you, it has to be extra strict. But it's not across the board. For many people, it's extra strict. And for some people, it's not strict enough.
Being overweight can be very unhealthy. Being excessively underweight can in some ways be much worse. Yossi, might I ask you what your BMI is?
You certainly may. So I'm actually on the higher range of what's considered normal. I'm 6'7". So at 6'7", according to the BMI chart, I can be anywhere between 165 pounds and 220 pounds.
165 to 220. That's a 55-pound range.
Of course, it's very ridiculous. The taller you get, the more ridiculous the BMI chart gets. Because the BMI chart, if you must know, is your weight divided by your height squared. You are more than one dimension, so it gives you a squared. But really, we're three dimensions. If we were two-dimensional, we would be like a painting, just up, wide and up. We're really deep. We really have three dimensions. And that's part of the issue with the BMI chart. And that's also part of why the taller a person gets, the more ridiculous the BMI chart gets, and the wider the range is between 165 and 220. But according to the BMI chart, I'm currently at the higher range of the BMI of what's normal, but I'm not in the middle range. And it's okay, according to the BMI chart, if I would weigh 165 pounds.
165 pounds? That would be ridiculously little.
Yes. If I was standing behind a pole, you would not be able to see me except for my nose sticking out.
You probably have an easy time in the rain. You could just walk between the raindrops if you weigh 165 pounds.
Yes, and if I took a shower, I would need to wear toothpicks in my ears in case I fall down the drain. Someone could pick me up. No, but seriously, it's not possible for me to weigh 165 pounds.
Not possible?
Unless I eat nothing for the next 10 years and consume nothing but apple cider vinegar. So, given that the BMI chart is not accurate, I'm going to propose a new type of chart. Instead of comparing height to weight, let's compare height to waist. Because that would solve so many of our issues. If we had a chart that compares your height to your waist, then we would be in a much better situation.
Right, as measuring your waist is a way to measure where your fat is in your body, as well as your overall muscle mass. That has an idea, because the smaller your waist, typically the more muscle and definitely less fat on the waist.
Exactly, and it's also addressing age, because if someone has bone density, it won't count towards their weight, because we're just measuring the waist.
It won't have an effect on that.
And also gender, it doesn't matter if the person's of different physiological makeup. Both men and women should have an appropriate waist size.
So measuring your waist is a much more accurate way to measure your overall health and your weight goals.
And did we mention the shoulder width? That if someone has a very wide shoulders, let's say someone's shoulder is 4 feet wide. According to the BMI chart, they're morbidly obese, even if they're rail thin.
What would be a good ratio of waist to height then?
I still can't give you an exact number because the waist to height ratio does not address health concerns, whether it's an existing health concern or whether it's a health concern that an individual is predisposed to, if a certain disease runs in the family and that type of thing. This ratio would be around 50%, meaning if someone is 6 feet tall, then their waist should be 3 feet in circumference, which is a 36-inch waist. And if someone is 5 feet tall, they should have a 2.5-foot wide waist.
30-inch waist.
So depending on the medical conditions or concerns an individual has, it might be appropriate to have a waist that's 45% of their height. But 50% is a very good place to start.
Again, every person is still different. This is far more accurate than just measuring weight. It is a little more complicated than measuring just weight, because weight you have to go on the scale, while this you have to kind of know where to measure your waist. But it's really not that difficult to learn. Just need to practice a little bit, and it's a much better way to measure your overall health and your weight loss needs.
Absolutely. And Duddy, if I may ask you, what is an appropriate waist size for you?
Well, I'm approximately 6 feet tall, so based on this 50% number, 36 inches would be what I should aim at. I do have pants size 36, however, different companies, they range different sizes, and my 36 pants range from approximately 36 and a half inches to around 38 inches. The smaller ones, I can't fit in them right now. I am still working my way toward my suggested waist.
And for you, you're thankfully in good health, so 50% would be an appropriate size. Do you wear American clothing or European clothing?
So mostly American clothing, but I do have some European clothing.
There's a difference between American clothing and European clothing.
The cuts are different than the angles, and
a lot of people who might fit into 36 size American clothing wouldn't fit into European size 36. Do you have any idea why the Americans would give everyone an extra 2 inches? because no American is interested in going up a size.
I want to be a size 36 waist. So it's easier if I just buy something that says 36 and it's really 38. That way I don't have to lose those 2 inches.
Exactly. Americans are extremely overweight and very much in denial about their condition.
And the marketing departments of all these clothing manufacturers know that.
And should they decide to write an honest size, then they will go out of business immediately because everyone will simply buy the other brand of clothing that makes them feel better.
Also, they'll have an image in their head, yeah, I'm a 36. And so they'll go looking for the 36s. If it wouldn't fit, then they'll have to go to the 38. The marketing departments, again, get you there and you get your pants and you're healthy now.
That's a very easy way to make people fit into the right clothing. Just make the pant size bigger. It's like when I heard someone suggest that in order to save America from being obese, just change the rate of obesity to a higher number.
There we go.
Instead of that you have to be 300 pounds to be obese, you have to be 350.
Right. Let's say I have a pair of pants that's a little tight on me. I'll go to a tailor and take it out a little bit. The entire clothing industry in America took out their pants a little bit.
And if we just make it more difficult to be obese, you'll have a lot of people who are 320 pounds saying, I used to be obese, but thankfully the government was able to fix my problem. They changed the rule. Now you have to be 350 pounds to be obese.
Right, because obesity is not the issue. You don't want to not be obese. You want to be healthy. This is the same problem with the BMI chart itself. The BMI chart is giving an arbitrary measurement.
Which is arbitrary for an individual. It's appropriate for a population.
Right. It's an accurate number, very accurate number, weight to height, but it doesn't tell you anything about the health, and therefore it really doesn't tell you anything practical.
What you need to take home with you is do not trust the BMI chart. Let the doctors use it.
At least measure your waist or have a health professional measure your waist.
And don't focus on some number that's on a chart. And I wouldn't even focus on a waist. I would just focus on diet. Don't rely on the BMI chart.
Right.
And that's it for today.
Thank you all for listening.
We hope you join us next time.
Goodbye.